I can hear you, Bill. How are you doing this morning?
I can't hear you.
We're big time this morning. I feel big time. Nancy, can you hear? Okay. Let's see. Which one are you? All right. So Milton, I feel odd this morning. You're in another room this morning. We're in the big room. I mean, we're like UFC fighters here. We're in the octagon. We got the octagon table. We're sitting around, and we just got more people than usual, so we had to move to a bigger room this morning. So I appreciate you guys accommodating us. You can see what's going on in the studio. You can, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you saw it, it's pretty amazing in here. It is. It's big time. I feel like Howard Stern, or maybe somebody like that. How about that? We got a big room in here. We could actually play a game. I'm down. I'm good for that. Although I don't know. I think Hayden could probably take me. She'd be my,
End around.
End around. Is that what you did? Okay. All right. So, how was your week, Bill? Been a good week. We want to keep Sandy in our prayers. I got a text from her this morning. She's having surgery, and I just want to keep her in our prayers this morning. Want all the listeners out there praying for her. If you guys don't know this, Sandy Alexander is a great broadcaster and participant here at the radio station, and she's been diagnosed with cancer and is having surgery, and we're all praying for Sandy. Sandy helped bring me in the radio station for the first time and do a kind of a community event that led to what we're doing right now, and just want to really keep her in our prayers. So, what's big news this morning, Hayden? Anything big news affecting seniors?
Affecting seniors?
I know. Well, I mean, I was kind of making a play on that. Funny on that. Is he retiring?
I haven't read the details yet. I just heard he resigned.
I don't know what's going on. If you go to CNN or any of those, he's resigning. That's the big news this morning.
I have lost your journal up.
Yeah. So, and then you got the Pope's in town.
Yesterday,
hanging out.
He addressed the joint houses of Congress.
Yeah, he did.
Very political speech.
Now, was that the first time that he? This morning.
Was it this morning?
It was
UN this morning.
UN this morning.
UN.
The UN this morning. Okay. Now I saw something. Was that the first time that the Pope had come and addressed the joint houses? Usually just visits with the president, something like that. Okay. So maybe I don't know. Maybe he wanted to really get the point across, or really share the love.
Or had a kindred spirit.
I don't know. But anyway, that's what's going on in the news right now. I wish it had. It's all political right now. It seems. You know what I mean? But here, we have nothing but love around the octagon. So no politics around the octagon. And we're going to talk a little bit about Journey this morning. I have a couple of special guests this morning. I have Len Byers, who is a chaplain, if not the head chaplain. Are you the head chaplain?
I would like to think so.
You're the chaplain at the hospital.
Maybe I'm the head chaplain. There are other chaplains.
I always butcher it. It's Carolina's. Is it Carolina's Medical
Carolina's Healthcare System.
Carolina's Healthcare System.
Carolina's Healthcare System, Kings Mountain.
Yes.
Those are our current names.
I was born at Shelby Hospital.
Well, that's all right. I was born at the Mooresville Hospital a year or two ago myself.
Okay, I got you. And I was born at that place. And in Shelby.
Right. Well, I knew that's the reason I liked you.
Yeah, and
about 4 or 5 years after my oldest child.
About 4 or 5 years. I was born 4 or 5 years after your eldest child.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So your eldest child's like
No, we're not going to talk about
20 years old. Okay, all right. So all right, and we've got Journey is a program that I'm involved in. I wish I was more involved in, and it's essentially about making end-of-life decisions. The chaplains there at the hospital work very closely with people about end-of-life decisions. It's about making competent decisions, responsible decisions about end-of-life issues, and and doing that ahead of time, hopefully, also do it in crisis situations. I think the chaplains work closely, but rather do it ahead of time. And that's the goal of Journey, is to educate everyone in the community about why it's so important to make end-of-life decisions. Len's going to talk to us about a little bit about the history of Journey, and we're going to talk about the caregiver support part of Journey as well, about the books we provide the community to help keep everything in one place for the family and all the important documents, how you can receive those. And Nancy Abasiekong is here today. And very pleased to have her here today. And you were at Cooperative NC, Cooperative Extension is your private line, your agency. And Journey is made up of a lot of different companies and agencies that come in to form a coalition. I understand it's the first of its kind in the state. We don't realize how fortunate we are. We talked a couple of weeks ago with Susie Kennedy about how, about creating a national model, if not international model, for adult daycare out of Cleveland County. Then we talked last week about Access Healthcare, which is a similar coalition of healthcare and other representatives that come in, and companies that come in to help provide care for seniors and talk about issues and on how to provide the best care and options for seniors in the community. And today, we're going to talk about another real feature of Cleveland County and starting the first coalition in the state that focuses on end-of-life issues and who's involved in that, how you can be involved, and how we can answer your questions. So hang out. We're gonna give you some really great information this morning. Milton, if people want to call in and ask any questions, we'll field those as we go. If they have any questions about end-of-life issues, Journey, healthcare powers of attorneys, living wills, getting all their information in one place and making competent decisions, where would they call? What are the three numbers in locations? I know there's a Cleveland, Gaston, and Cherville number, right? Lincoln County number, sorry about that.
Cleveland County is 704-482-1390. Lincoln County is 704-735-8071. And Gaston County is 704-435-2844.
Okay, and again, I'm Greg McIntyre with McIntyre Elder Law, helping seniors protect their assets and legacies. And let's get right into it. Let's dive right into it. So, Len, tell us who you are, how you came to be in this world, a little bit about your background, and your involvement with Journey. That's all you have to do.
All right, thank you, Greg. I'm the chaplain at the hospital in Shelby and Kings Mountain, and for about the last 40 years, we've had a lot of more interventions that are available to us as consumers of health care. CPR, breathing machine, tube feeding, kidney dialysis. They do wonders to help people overcome some of the crises in their health. The problem is that as time goes on, or maybe in certain situations, if we're using a life support, we have to make the decision about when should we start using life support. And for about 40 years now, we've been into having to struggle with that decision without any heads up. 30 years ago, every time we turned around in the ICU waiting room, there's a family that's being asked by the physician, what do you think we should do about the breathing machine or about further use of CPR? And they all had a deer in the headlights look and an agonized expression. And nobody wanted to make those kinds of decisions. Nobody had a clue what was the right decision to make. So I got into this just out of my job as a chaplain because the grief that people experience losing someone is unavoidable. I mean, if you love somebody, you're going to miss them and grieve them. But the grief that's bound up with wondering, did I do the right thing, or that's a very, very hard grief to get through. People ask after years, did I kill Mama? Did I kill my husband? No, you didn't do that. An illness intervened in such a way that even with all we have available, it wasn't enough to help a person get through that crisis. But even though I say that to folks, it's still hard for people to believe. First time I had anyone tell me I wasn't talking about it. So that's the agonies that we saw people go through, and we went through it with them. And in the ethics committee at the hospital, we said, what we got to do is we got to warn people. We got to warn them before they get here. We got to warn them if they haven't thought about this stuff before the doctor says, what do we do? Then they're going to be playing catch up in the worst sort of way, and it's going to be difficult and agonizing. So we started the Ethics Education Task Force in around 1990. That's our local coalition to grow out of the hospital and the Ethics Committee to involve folks like the North Carolina Extension Service, Care Solutions, Hospice, the Life Enrichment Center, the organization that Susie Kennedy started. So we wanted to involve a lot of folks into trying to get the word out, and I guess over the years we've had many programs in the community, done seminars, coffee and conversations. I think we've probably done programs in around 300 churches and civic organizations about living wills. And as we went along, we realized that there's another topic or another strategy we needed to add, and that was caregiver support. Because family caregiving is a tremendous challenge of the modern healthcare situation. What we have accomplished is many of the ways that folks died suddenly, we were able to intervene and able to help folks survive some of the things that earlier generations.
I can't tell you how many times I've used your talk about that in talking to people about what. Please continue. That's where I got that from. Is talking about the many things that used to kill us. Now we just linger on, and they can treat it. And sometimes it's a downhill treatment after that. But that's just the reality of it.
Well, the good news is they help us get through a lot of things.
Right.
We live longer and we live better quality lives as a result of all this good stuff.
That's correct.
But
sometimes
there comes a time when these chronic conditions, as they're called, do kind of get to the place where we can't get ahead of them or stay ahead of them. And that's where we are. The other aspect of that comes in is that more and more families are taking care of loved ones at home. And to be a family caregiver, I'll let Nancy talk about that. To be a family caregiver is a tremendous challenge. And when someone tells me they're a family caregiver, we worry about their health. We worry about their peace of mind and how they manage all of the stresses associated with being a family caregiver. They are considerable. So the two things Journey really tries to address are those two things. We want to warn you to do take some action, talk with your family, what to do if the doc says we've done all we can do. What do you want your family to do? The latest version of the way we talk about that is to say, if you are a faithful person, which most of us in this area are, is to think about it in terms of your faith as well. Tell your family what you think is the right thing to do when the machines aren't working. Tell your doctor that, but also talk to your clergyman, your minister about that, and also do plenty of praying and talking to God about what God thinks is the best thing for you at those particular times. And if I may, I just try to let Nancy catch up about the caregiver support, because it is a huge issue. Some people go so far as to say, if you say a person has cancer, you say a person has heart disease, you know that you're saying there's some serious challenges to their well-being. Well, there are some people who say, if you say cancer, heart disease, or family caregiver, the challenges are just as formidable with family caregiver as we imagine with cancer and heart disease.
Nancy, what about the caregiver aspect and the family caregiver aspect?
Well, caregivers are certainly a primary concern, and agencies who are a part of Journey now, we're addressing these issues separately, just on our own. Cooperative Extension has offered programming in family caregiving support, powerful tools for caregivers, caring for you, caring for me, other types of programs through funding support from isothermal planning and development,
Yes.
and the Life Enrichment Center,
Yes.
because we co-facilitate. So Debbie Vaughn with the Life Enrichment Center and myself have been the facilitators
Right.
for that particular program. But we were able to join with the hospital and other direct service providers in really taking a close look at what family caregivers experience and what they need to know. In looking at whether someone is the primary caregiver,
Right.
or how they prepare for that, because as Len has said, sometimes we have time to prepare, and sometimes we don't. But in a family, there will usually be someone, one or two people, who will step up, and the family will really look to them as the primary caregiver. And persons who fit that role, who fill that role, are ones that we really do have to care about. And as Len said, if someone has a chronic disease, you already are looking out for some of the challenges that they might face. And we now know that we have to look out for those same challenges for family caregivers. The family themselves, helping to support them, encouraging them to practice self-care, not losing sight of
Man,
their
isn't that important?
very
I
important.
talk about a lot of times in educational talks that I get about the stats of family caregivers.
Mhm.
That it's so important to have options as you age as a senior
Mhm.
for maybe professional caregivers to come in.
Exactly. And
Because-
that's where Care Solutions comes in.
And Care Solutions, yes, that's correct.
Can help educate.
But that's
us.
not always an option. Sometimes the family may not want to do that. And there's family caregivers available. But if you don't take care of yourself, there's a lot of stress that goes along with
Exactly.
taking care of another family member.
Mhm.
In fact, it can decrease your own lifespan
Right.
if you give it care.
Right.
Right.
Often the caregiver.
And I think that's what you were talking about.
Yes, the
It's
caregiver
self-maintenance.
can predecease
Right.
the person they're caring for.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. That's the harsh reality, isn't
That
it?
is the harsh reality, and it happens. We all probably know of someone or a family that experienced that.
Right.
And that's what we don't want to happen, and we in our community can help families navigate around that, plan in advance, and even encouraging everybody in the family to find a way that they can help support the caregiver, but do some caregiving also.
So spread the caregiving,
Spread
the
it
load.
around, spread that load around, the
Among the family
responsibility around.
Right.
And we really find that it is a real opportunity for the family when you can walk with someone through that final illness, which you don't know it's the final illness until it is. So we have many, caregiving can be a few weeks, a few months, a few years. We don't know. And we don't know what the level of
You know something
care.
I've never thought about, and this is the great thing about doing a live radio show, is that some of the questions I have come right off the top is do you find that you deal with family caregivers sometimes that it was a rewarding experience for them
Definitely.
giving care?
Giving care. That opportunity.
That's the other side of
for
the coin
them.
that I don't think about much. Yeah.
Right, we do need to think about that, and caregivers love their loved ones. Many of them want to do, they all want to see their loved one do well, and if they have been able to plan ahead and can put some of the daily living work, we have many caregivers who have to give up their employment to be full-time caregivers.
Wow.
Some don't have the economic capacity to do
Means,
that, the
yeah.
financial means to
Sure.
do that. So they are trying to do a job, work in a workplace, and also give care. Take the loved one to appointments, be sure they have meals, whatever it is. And of course, Cleveland County is fortunate that we do have resources and supports
Lots of resources.
Life
And that's what we've been
Enrichment
exploring.
Center.
Sure.
That's right, like the Life Enrichment Center.
Right.
If a caregiver does have to work or chooses to
Right.
work, then the
It's
Life
a low-cost
Enrichment
option,
Center,
and there's way they will help you find a way to pay for it. There's
right,
Cat
with their
VA,
sliding scale
Cat
and
VA,
different
yeah.
things that they are
sliding
able to
scale for
help you
private
with.
pay. That's great.
So I hope that our families in our community will seek out information and some of the resources, even with Care Solutions, which came about after Journey
Right.
because there was a need in our community for families to really know more about, now what do we do? We've got a loved one here who needs care, they can't work, they have to have someone with them
Right.
24/7 or whatever. So, what do we do?
Nancy, if families need help, if they need guidance, if they need support, and they're caring for a loved one, and they're a family caregiver, or a group of people in a family that's caring for a loved one, can they call you at the NC Cooperative Extension, and can you help give them guidance, support, resources, counseling, things of that nature?
They can call me at Cooperative Extension, but the agency that our community has chosen
Right.
and is supporting is Care Solutions.
Okay.
So what I would do is provide them with some Cooperative Extension resources,
Right.
but I would quickly refer them to Care Solutions
Okay.
because they're able to work with a registered nurse and a social worker,
Right.
a qualified social worker, in helping them do an assessment to see really what are the needs of their family, what are the needs of the loved one, and what are the needs of the family members.
So to the people that are listening today, who are drinking coffee on the porch or hanging out, would you direct them to call you about these questions or Care Solutions right now?
I would direct them to call Care Solutions
Okay.
as their first call. However, you can always call Cooperative Extension. We have different types of resources available, but Care Solutions, Jane Wright
Wright.
is the outreach coordinator there, and she would have access to the direct service providers. And while they don't select a provider for you, they do keep an updated list of persons in our community who are able to offer different types of services at this time.
So the number to Care Solutions in Jane Wright is 704-487-0968. That's 704-487-0968 if you need to get in touch with someone regarding care for a family member.
Right, and they can call Cooperative Extension. The Cooperative Extension is an educational organization.
Sure.
So what we would be able to provide are publications and again some links to other agencies in our community.
Okay. And we'll come back and we'll put out your phone number as well and information a little later in the show. Okay.
All right.
But thank you very much. It sounds like you're just providing a great need to the community and families and family caregivers out there.
We certainly are trying to be on that cutting edge. And part of what Cooperative Extension is doing is looking at healthcare issues, because again, I mentioned the powerful tools for caregiving, which is a 6-week course that again has been offered free of charge.
Right.
That Cooperative Extension is one of the agencies that provides that
Okay.
training, because we want to train caregivers on the specifics of caregiving. As much as we want to care for someone, if our own health is compromised, then we end up needing care and are not able to give care.
So how do you see yourself fitting in to the Journey program, and you as a coalition member, as a Journey program member or a Journey coalition member? We meet over at the hospital once a month and talk about current issues and end-of-life planning issues and upcoming events, things of that nature. How do you see yourself and what you do fitting in with Journey?
Well, I see Cooperative Extension's role. We are an educational organization,
Sure.
part of NC State and A&T State University, and we are able to bring, again, training and education, sometimes through grants, sometimes through other materials available from other states,
Right.
so that we can provide, for instance, how do families plan for dispersing personal property,
Right.
personal goods. And
Sure.
we do a Who Gets Grandma's Yellow Pie Plate
Oh, okay, gotcha.
program. So
Right.
that's something through Cooperative Extension, through the Minnesota Cooperative Extension that has been shared with us here in North Carolina. We also have information on estate planning. Extension was doing living will information and had an attorney on staff at one
wow.
time, which budgeting situations have changed, and we don't have that availability right now directly as a cooperative
Can I
extension
dispel,
staff.
and just to put it out there, a living will is not a will, by the way. Okay?
Right.
A living
Two
will is much
separate
different.
things.
In fact, sometimes I don't like that name. And I know it's a softer name than the traditional name, declaration for a desire for a natural death. But I always make sure that I clarify that with my clients. Because some people will come in and say, oh, I already have a living will. And I'm like, okay, well, you might want to consider a will also. Oh, well, you know, and they don't really get
And
the
as you
differences.
described, that's
Yeah,
right.
they don't get the difference.
And that's the educational piece
Right.
that, again, we try to do in partnership, with the hospital. And Journey promotes on April the 16th of each year, National Healthcare Decisions Day.
Right.
As you know, as
I
a
do.
Journey member.
I've done National Healthcare Decisions Day at the YMCA before and put it out to everybody and
And we
had
also
staff on
have
site.
materials available through Cooperative Extension, as does
Hospice-
both hospitals,
hospice
does,
Hospice.
and both senior centers do. So our community is very, very responsive.
And on those days, what date is that?
It's always April the 16th.
Okay.
That
April
is the
16th.
national.
The National
day.
Healthcare Decisions Day. So every
Right.
April the 16th.
Right, that is the national day. Now, if that's on the weekend, we might do our event on another day
Right.
of the week if it comes on the weekend.
So somewhere around that time,
Around April the 16th.
we'll hold in different places. We'll have notaries there,
Right.
people to counsel you, to come in and free of charge, get your healthcare powers of attorneys and living wills in place.
Right. And another thing through Cooperative Extension, we have a volunteer organization, Extension and Community Association members. We have 4 clubs in the county, and they hosted advanced directive workshops a couple of years ago. Len and several other speakers came, but ECA members helped to get notaries at the Boiling Springs site and also in Bellwood, taking it out into the community, out into the county, and we had a very good response and had over 30 people through that initiative make advanced directives.
So just to go back and clarify, again, a living will is not a will. It will not pass your property. It has nothing to do with passing your property. It is traditionally called, or also called, a declaration for a desire for a natural death. And it is specifically about making that most important, and that's how I talk about it, most important life decision as to how you want your care handled should you become terminal, incurable. And I give an example that, for instance, brain death has occurred. You want to keep being maintained by artificial machinery, yes or no? And there are other situations and ways that you can craft your care. We can get into, do you want artificial hydration, nutrition, but in a nutshell, that is a classic situation that people think of that apply, okay? And that's what a living will is. So we need to think about those situations. Do we want to be maintained? Do we want to, and Len touched on this earlier, do we want to pass, and I talk about this in educational talks and with clients. You'll have people come back to you and say, oh man, did I kill mom or dad? Or did I pull the plug on a love? That's a guilt-ridden decision. That if I had to make that decision for my parent or my wife, I know I would stay up nights. I know I would probably wake up in cold sweats at night thinking about it. And that was what I did. Although it's the reality many of us are faced with. And that many have done. So the question is, do you want to get that out of the way yourself and make that decision and that guilt-ridden decision and take it off the shoulders of the kids?
The main reason over the years that people have wanted to do a declaration of desire for a natural death,
Correct.
aka a living will,
Right.
which, by the way, I have no idea how I ever got that name.
I think
But
it's a
it's a
softer
source.
name.
It's a source
Yeah.
of tremendous confusion.
Right.
At the hospital, people think that we're asking them if they have a will when
Right.
we're asking about a living will. So the confusion about it abounds. So to help people be clear is really good. But that agony that was identified many, many years ago exists to the very present day. Just this week, I talked to a friend whose father was involved in a sudden event that led to the use of life support, and then the realization that life support was not going to help. And so here we go. And what's happened to us over the years is that we feel like we've got to make the right decision, but we don't know what the right decision is. And these decisions are so complex that it's really hard to figure them out.
There's
Especially when
personal
you're
factors. Why are they complex? Because they're personal factors. There's different family members that may have different views. There's religious considerations that people have. There's what would mom or dad do, or even the individual has a hard time making that decision sometimes. So that's what my experience. What do you think?
all of those above, all of the above. I like that answer always. All of the above, everything you just said, plus the fact that, for example, with a person who has difficulty swallowing, who has issues related to that, one of the first things we do is think about artificial nutrition and hydration, tube feeding. But the use of that intervention is not without considerable risk and difficulties. And it just gets very hard with people's heart, their feelings, their religious feelings about feeding and supporting each other, then whether or not they know what their loved one wanted, and to the depth of what they knew their loved one had really talked about it. Basically, it's really good to know what your loved ones want. It's also really good to know how much they want. In other words, some people like to say, listen, do what I want. If you don't, I'm going to come back and haunt you.
Right.
Which is their way of saying, I'm really serious. I'm not just kidding. I want you to do it. I know, I understood this stuff. I know that the best thing for you all to do is listen and follow what I've done.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, they're gonna pull the plug on us in just a minute.
They're going to pull the plug on me.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm getting
attorney conference,
I'm getting
what was that?
the schedule, or we're running out of time sign. And I mean, we could go on about this for another 20 minutes. Great information
2 hours.
for the community, and we might want to have a part 2 at some point. We'll consider that, because I think, we need to talk about, look, this was the first place that a coalition was formed in the state about these complicated, hard to talk about issues. And you were a great soldier of that, an innovator in help establishing that, right?
yes, with a lot of good help.
With a lot of good help. Okay.
Mhm.
And
A lot of good help.
You're gonna have that journey event in
Yes.
October. You might wanna tell people about that.
Do I have time to do that?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. October the 29th at Don Gibson Theater in Shelby. Stuart Watson from Channel 36 is going to come and have a program with us. And he's going to talk about his experience with his parents and how it's a good story about all these issues where the parents really did their good work of preparing the whole family for what might happen. And then when it happened, it worked out very well for them. It's October the 29th, Don Gibson Theater in Shelby, 5:30.
And you'll have vendors there
Mhm.
offering information too. We're
Yes,
gonna be
we'll,
presenting
okay.
there.
we'll have music and we'll have refreshments, and we're going to have us a big old party there to Don Gibson, but also share a very, very important story. What we want is more and more people's stories to be like what Stuart Watson is going to talk about. They're wonderful stories when people have taken this to heart, done their planning, done their praying, and it's just beautiful. But then we have the stories every week where they haven't got prepared. It's agonizing still.
So the story is, plan ahead. That's the advice. Come on out and join us on what date?
October 29th.
October 29th at the Don Gibson Theater. It's going to be a
5:30.
big event, 5:30. Thank you, Nancy Abasiekong, for joining us. Thank you, Hayden, for joining us and helping. And thank you, Len, for
Thank
coming.
you, Greg.
I really appreciate that. And I'd love to continue that discussion. I feel like we've had half the discussion this morning. We really haven't talked that much about healthcare powers of attorney, but it's so important to have that one person among all the family members communicating a solid message in life and death decisions to the physicians and the staff and the administration of any facility, be it the hospital or another healthcare facility. I can help you with healthcare powers of attorney and Living Wills journey at the hospital here. Can help you with healthcare powers of attorneys and Living Wills. And thank you for listening to the Elder Law Report. I'm Greg McIntyre. Thank you, Milton Baker, for helping be our engineer and giving us signs from the other room this morning. And if you need to call my office, I'll tell you what. As a courtesy for listening this morning, I'll always offer a free consultation. Code Word Radio. You can call in, just talk to Kelsey or someone else in the office, talk to Hayden. And I'd be glad to sit down with you and talk about these and other issues affecting you as you head into or in your senior years. Again, Greg McIntyre with McIntyre Elder Law. I'm the Elder Law guy, helping seniors protect their assets and legacies. And thank you, WOHS. See you next week, 10 o'clock, Friday at 10. Bye.
All right, wow,
That
that
was
did blow by.
wonderful. Y'all did like pros. I mean, just no damn time. It was great.
So okay, we could have done it. I mean, we could have.
Yes.
Well,
It was like 10:45,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize it.
yeah, let me
We
just
didn't
say
even
something before
I got
forget.
lost in the time too.
This is personal to me. 3.5 years ago, we moved my in-laws from New Mexico here. She had lymphoma and needed treatment. He was older with Parkinsonian symptoms and trying to take care of her.
Right.
So my wife's been taking care of them at home all this time. And we've had people come in to help give her relief. So I know about family caregiver and how much of a challenge it is and how much support they need. But in the journey of their lives, there's the continuum of care. We've involved palliative care, outpatient palliative care. We've talked about their help to the caregiver and to the person. And then we're now involved in hospice.
Right.
So there is a just progression to the continuity of care of what people need as they age and as the symptoms get more
I feel like we're doing
significant.
kind of a continuity of shows because we've had Journey and Susie and Access on. Now we have Journey, and hospice would be a great follow up in the end. We need to get Patty McMurray on here.
Well, and we're also going to do one on long-term care.
Or
And
Pam.
One of was it Carolyn or Thornton County?
Well,
or something?
I think we should do hospice toward the end of our series.
And you could loop in. I think Angie was thinking maybe she'd be coming sometime. Angie with Care Solutions. You could benefit from having Angie just to give her the time. The
We did
senior
have Care
center-
Solutions on also. Jane came
Jane
and talked
came-
about Access last week and Care Solutions.
Okay, well good. Well then the senior center, Monty Thornburg and
Paulette. We just saw Paulette.
They're part of Journey, and they offer support for both of these missions. So you can pull in those kinds of folks. But hospice is a part. Outpatient palliative care grows out of hospice. It's another thing. It's something that folks really need to hear about.
I make out some copies of the.
Hey, Milton.
Sorry.
First, I apologize. I totally lost track. We need like a big
Well, I
clock.
did.
I know it's right there, but that flew by.